Lady Audio Radio Show. Lady Audio. Lady Audio. Lady Audio. Lady Audio. Vintage Hot Sounds.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Lady Audio podcast. Jim Bannon is our guest this week, and Jim has a corporate background, and he once got to meet Sam Walton, I think he's the founder of Walmart, and that was when he was 30 years old as a national sales manager for General Electric Lighting. And in that meeting, he put his arm around Sam Walton and said to him, "Trust me." So what we're going to do today is we're going to trust Jim Bannon for a little bit here, and he's going to tell us about call to action symbols and some revolutionary, how do I say this? A revolutionary new type of it's not like a software. What is it, Jim? You know what? Listen up here. So we're gonna just trust Jim Bannon for a bit here. And so, Jim, welcome to the show. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Clara. And, I always want to say I'm not worthy. I'm so honored to be a guest on your show because of your position as a lead singer with Mehicat. I love your music, and you're running probably one of the top podcasts for professional audio people in the world. And your audience is going to hear a different message from me than they hear in your normal podcast. And I really compliment you for having your open mind. As your audience might not know, you turned me down with my first request to be on a guest here because you said it really didn't fit what your podcast do. And your compliment to your open mind that once we got together, you thought, maybe there's some value here. So before we get into the value specific to your audience, because I do understand who your audience is, I want to ask you a question that relates to your capabilities, and so we can tie our two skills together, if you would. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So as good as you are, can you imagine being invited to teach the Mormon Tabernacle Choir how to sing? That'd be kind of a challenging job, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be.
Okay. Well, in my business, and I am a video producer, but more than that, I'm a communications specialist from a marketing standpoint. And I was struggling in my business because people didn't have a clue what I did. And then I got invited to be the guest speaker at the Google Development Group Chicago Android Meetup. That's a mouthful, right?
Yes.
So these are the geekiest of the geekies, sort of like your audience to the audio business. These are the people to the cellular communication business. So they invented cellular communication, Motorola, Chicago, the homework. They know all about mobile marketing and smartphones and QR codes and all that. And I'm going to walk in as the invited speaker to give our presentation and tell them they're doing it wrong. Kind of a challenge, right?
Yeah, kind of a challenge.
Because what I want to talk about is my company's mission is bringing the offline world to your online presence. And most of your audience can relate to that because they're not going to make any money and they're going to be out of business if they can't attract an audience that's going to pay them for their professional skills, right?
Right.
And today, the old print media about running an ad in Yellow Pages or printing a brochure or in a college dorm putting out a flyer with those little cut off strips, right? That doesn't work anymore. It's all electronic and digital. And therefore, they need to drive traffic to their website, to their band, what's it called, where I bought your song, Band Camp. to these different electronic venues, and they need to do that very efficiently. And that's what we're going to talk about here today in our session. Those tools about how I can help you bring the offline world to your online presence. And the subline is using call to action symbols as the entrance ramp to the information highway. Now, I own that hashtag worldwide, so if your audience just goes to any address bar and types in hashtag, the word call is in telephone, the number 2, action, and symbols, plural, so it's hashtag call to action symbols, then they'll see page after page after page of what I've done and giving away free education, altruistically, pro bono. That means free, doesn't it, Clara?
Yes, it does.
So I'm not making anything in this venture, and people find a hard time believing that in today's me environment. There is a background story of why I do it and has involved with national charity for cancer awareness, but maybe we'll get into that. But everything I'm doing today, everything I'm suggesting to your audience is all free. So let's take that negative fear out of the equation. The next thing is the term I did not use is an industry standard, and it is called QR codes. And QR means quick response. It is developed by a little company you might have heard of called Toyota. You ever heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. And Toyota developed this for an inventory control system in their plants through a division called Denso Wave. That's unimportant. But they gave it away free. So it's sort of like people who give away music for free, without copyright or license. And there's some people who do that for some very specific reasons, right?
Yes.
And in our industry in software, it's called open source. So QR codes are open source technology. You can get them a number of places. A company called Bitly, bit.li, is a URL shortener. Google themselves, and theirs is goo.gl, so Google. And there's many, many, many more. And it's a software application that's on either an iPhone or an Android, and it's free. And it allows people to take a long URL and, for example, this podcast, which is http://facebook.com/Lady Audio Podcast. Well, I got a fat finger and I could have mistyped any one of those digits and not gotten to this podcast. But with a QR code and a symbol, all you have to do is scan it with your smartphone and bingo, you're there. So that's just one example of the many, many ways that it can be used to literally bring the offline world to your online presence. Now, most people have seen these little things. They're square, but they erroneously call them barcodes. And they're on product packages, and more importantly, they're in newspaper and magazine print ads. So have you seen a QR code?
Yes, I've seen them before.
Okay. And before I get into why everybody thinks they're negative and why I can teach people how to do it right, and by the way, that hour presentation that I prepared for the Google Development Group, I took it, and it was PowerPoint, and I converted it into a 2-minute and 43-second video because I know how, because I'm really a what?
Producer.
A video producer. Bingo.
Yay.
So that video is available generally, and I'd be glad to give your audience, the link to it so they can watch it.
Okay.
But back to QR codes. People erroneously call it a barcode. Now, barcodes were introduced in 1974 because I'm such an old fart that I was actually there. It was in the Kroger food store in the Kenwood Shopping Center in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1974. Revolutionary technology at the time, and it only has one function. It decrements inventory and produces a description and a price on a cash register receipt. That's all a barcode does. The reason it was introduced in Cincinnati is the Universal Commercial Code Council is in Dayton, Ohio. Kroger is one of the biggest food chains in America, and that's how it got started. Now, it's only a 10-digit code, and it's only used for one purpose, But even then, adoption was really having a hard time in the industry until this little guy who you talked about in the opening of your presentation. I had the privilege of meeting him. His name was Sam Walton. And in Bentonville, Arkansas, in the lobby where salespeople used to call on them, he'd actually walk out and put his dime in the coffee machine. Imagine the richest man in the world is paying for coffee in his own company. But he had this habit of taking a chair and turning around backwards and just chatting with the folks because he knew that his words would go all the way up to the top in corporate America, including my company, which was the General Electric company. And he turned his chair around. He said, guys, I got a little problem in my stores. When I'm trying to scan your codes on the product, they're not all produced correctly, and a lot of them are failing. So would you please tell your bosses this one message from old Sam down here in Bentonville, would you? And of course, the group said, yeah, of course, Sam, what do you want? And he says, the next time that happens, it's a $10,000 fine. Are there any questions? And do you think that maybe UPC standardization across the industry happened from that moment forward?
Wow.
Yeah. So that's sort of what's going on. And ironically, I haven't had connections with Walmart in 20 years. But just so happens that while I'm becoming known for this call to action symbol, which is my trademark name for QR codes done right, and we're going to talk about the difference, I got to be the invited speaker in a number of places. And then when I saw a receipt that a friend of mine is a non-techie guy, he was a postmaster in my town, he says, Jim, this has got one of those thingies, that was his word, thingies. It's got one of those thingies on the bottom of it that you keep talking about. And I was jumping up and down. I actually hugged him in a coffee shop, and I was quite vocal. Kind of embarrassing for everybody because I was really excited. What he showed me was a Walmart receipt, and I know that 100 million people go into a Walmart every week. Can you imagine having 100 million people listen to your latest song, Clara?
I can imagine it.
You'd be pretty excited, right?
Right.
Well, that's how excited I was, because Walmart decided to put a QR code on the bottom of every single receipt. Now, what you'll learn about me is I'm all about industry standards. I don't do iPhone, iMac, iHouse, iCar, iTooExpensive. I'm tongue-in-cheek, of course, because I know that many of your audience are using Mac equipment, and, you know, God bless, it is great. And from an audio standpoint, I believe it's the best of the best. But you got to laugh, right? And my quote, and I've been with the president of Apple Marketing, and he was a guest speaker, and my host said, Jim, can I quote you to him? And I said, sure, go ahead. My quote is, Steve Jobs must have been absent from class the day they taught industry standards. So you got to laugh. Apple, you know, the most highly valued company in the world, and here I am being derogatory, right? No,
right.
Not at all. So understand my tongue-in-cheek humor. However, Walmart was not doing it right. So when you're excited, you don't tell somebody they're not doing it right. So it just so happens a friend of mine who's a PR guy in New York called me and he said, Jim, I'm meeting with Brian on Tuesday. I said, wow. And Brian is Brian Monahan, Vice President of Marketing of Walmart, who created that program. And he said, I'm going to tell him how excited you are, but he ought to give you a call. And so I have his cell phone, I have his email, and we made the offer, and he never followed up. It's a shame because they continue to have problems, which is why QR codes have gotten a bad rap, because people don't do it right. And that's why I do what I do altruistically. I am passionate about not having black eyes and teaching people how to do it right. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, now, having said that, the program is very successful on its own. He does use proprietary application. He uses the Walmart app, but God, he's Walmart. He can do it, right? And everything I do and teach and share is industry standard, and it's free and all that stuff. But what he does is it's a major application within the Walmart app. So you can download Walmart app for either iPhone or Android, and you can have it. And the next time you go into the store, you're going to scan that code, and it's going to ask you to give you your name and email, which you shouldn't resist doing because they want to know where to send the money. So if they're going to pay you money, Clara, do you think you want to give me your email address?
Wait, how? I missed the connection there. How am I going to get money from putting my iPhone up to one of those QR codes?
And I'm going to explain that to you. But first, you wouldn't mind giving your email and setting up an account with Walmart, despite what you might think of the company, if they're going to send you money, correct?
I guess. Well, maybe we can change the name from Walmart to some hometown little mom and pop shop.
There you go. And I respect that, by the way, and I have some of those very same feelings. And what would surprise you, so does Sam. He would roll over in his grave if he saw what's happened with his company. So his vision and what has become reality are two different things, but that's another subject. So let's take all the negative emotion out of this discussion, and I'm now going to explain to you how it works and why it's in your best interest to download a Walmart app. Fair enough?
Okay.
Okay. No emotion, no negative feelings. That QR code is very powerful. Remember, I told you that a barcode only has 10 characters and it only has one purpose. A QR code has 2,048 characters in it. It has so many multiple purposes. It can do so many things that will blow your mind, but we'll keep it kind of simple. So the way that Walmart is using it, in the bottom of the receipt, if you scan it with their proprietary app, using the button that is called Savings Catcher Program, they already know what you just purchased because it's in their computer system, right?
Right.
They happen to have this big database. So as soon as you scan that, they are going to go out and compare the prices of every item that you just purchased against all their competitors in the marketplace.
Okay.
Make sense?
Okay.
If anyone has a lower price, they are going to, ready for this? They are going to rebate the difference back to you. Automatically. You don't have to do a thing. That's why they needed you to have an account, and they needed to have your email address because they're going to send you what they call an e-card. It's not an e-card. It's an email. And it's going to be the difference in those prices that they're going to give back to you.
But why don't they just say that before or even on that page where they're asking you for your name and email?
They actually do. But just like every corporation in America today, that's trying to pay their people the least amount of money and turnover and all, again, we're not going negative, but they don't do a very good job of training their own employees. Their employees don't do a very good job of training their customers because they're too busy getting them through the checkouts. But whatever. The program is not well understood, but it still works. They paid more than $2 million. To give you some dollars, and my blog post talked about a specific example of a specific lady the first time I heard of this program, and it was $68. In the case of my wife and I, since we moved to Arizona, we are making about $150 a year. And to close the story, we are building a new Catholic church here, and unusual for a Catholic priest. My priest is a former corporate guy, and guess what corporation he used to be from? Motorola. So he and I can speak in kind of like half sentences. And when I told him about this program and what I was doing, he said, Jim, I want you to train every single parishioner how to use that Savings Catcher program. And we're going to call it Found Money. And we're going to say, see, it's how you found, in my case, $150 a year. We would like you to give all or a portion to our building fund. Voila. Immediately, we got Walmart to help pay for building our Catholic church. Pretty slick, right?
Pretty slick.
All right. So that's a real life example of why your audience wants to hear what I have to say. And if I've now got their attention, I can show them hundreds of ways they can use my call to action symbols. And by the way, in 5 years of building this business and doing my due diligence and all that stuff, I have yet found one person to say anything negative about call to action symbols as a phrase. Can you see anything negative about that?
No.
Neither can I. So I've avoided the negative that does exist for those people who understand what QR codes are and who unfortunately have had some bad experiences implementing them. The reason is just like I can't sing like you sing. And the difference is you're a professional and I'm an amateur. So in the discussion here, what I'm trying to do is take your audience to the professional level, just like they operate in their own business, rather than deal with the schmucks that are down in the, I got this software for free. Look I did this myself. Look at this, and then the campaign fails and they can't figure out why, and it gives everybody a black eye. Fair enough?
Yes, fair enough.
All right. I've done a lot of talking. I have hit you like a fire hose. You and I have had some offline conversations, so you understand that I listen 3 times faster than I talk. So what questions do you think your audience might have in their minds based just on this initial introduction? Because I threw out a lot of stuff in a short period of time.
So, okay, I'll be upfront with you, Jim. I don't own a smartphone, and I don't like smartphones, and I don't like promoting smartphones either. So this podcast is a little difficult for me. However, I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak because I know a lot of my audience, they do have smartphones. And so one of the questions I have as someone who doesn't use this type of technology at all, say I want to still take advantage of that business, but just without having a smartphone, how would I go about doing that?
That's a very intelligent and perceptive question, and it really hits home because I'm the leading edge of technology. So for me to not have a smartphone, which I didn't for a while for economic reasons, I actually had a tablet, right? So that was my first venture. I got into it very cheaply. And my wife still had a smart flip phone, and she bragged that our monthly phone bill was $45. So I can relate to where you're coming from. However, I desperately wanted a smartphone so that it could work with this call to action technology. And when we moved to Arizona, we both did it, and we did it big time. So that's the first question, or first answer. I can relate to what you're talking about. And that's what separates my call to action symbols from what everybody else is doing. If you didn't have a smartphone, you cannot use the Savings Catcher program as Walmart implements it, period. It would have just cost you, based on my example, $150 a year to stay with your obviously very strongly held opinions, right?
Yes.
And worse yet, if that was the way your audience was trying to buy music or trying to hire your band, you'd really be shooting yourself in the foot because you'd be killing your marketing plan before it got started. Fair enough?
I guess so.
So what I'm talking to your audience about is, remember, the main story is not the technology. It's not this call to action symbols. It's how can I help them bring the offline world to their online presence so that they can present their message, their skill, their uniqueness in the marketplace so that people will hire them. That's really the purpose of this podcast, not to talk about call to action symbols. It just happens to be a tool to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So I publish a industry standard infographic. In other words, it's a picture. It's a graphic that without me ever talking should be able to communicate the message. That's what an infographic is. And it's available online wherever books are sold. It's available online wherever I am, and I'm gladly give it to your audience. And the rule of 4 has 4 steps. Step 1 is, and I teach people, never, never, never. Clara, did I say never?
Yes, you said never.
Yes. Never publish a QR code naked and alone. I'll define that in a minute, which is what Walmart is doing. In other words, I have over 14,000 pieces of data to prove you will lose between 20 and 70% of your target market if you do that. So don't do that. Make sense?
I think I know what you mean. You mean put some kind of a text or some kind of a picture or something or video here or something like that right next to the QR code.
Bingo. You got it right. So
Okay.
My wife walking around with her flip phone, right? She doesn't have a scanner capability. It's not a smartphone. She's non-techie. She doesn't want a scanning app. She doesn't want to learn it. She don't want to have anything to do with call to action symbols, but she sure wants to make $150 a year. That she wants to do. And because that smartphone is using cellular technology and not Wi-Fi, she doesn't have to be at a Starbucks anymore. right? She doesn't know how the technology works, but even she recognizes HTTP:// as a web URL. And she knows that if she's always connected to the internet, that she can type in that universal resource locator. She can type in that web address, which is mecats.com, and she can get to where she wants to go. Doesn't that make sense?
That makes sense.
So that's the main difference between my call to action symbol and what everybody else is doing. I never, never, never publish a QR code naked and alone. It's always got a URL with it.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, the reason I can document that Walmart is losing 20% of their potential market is the way they generate the symbols. Remember, I told you it has up to 2,048 characters in it. And the more information you put in it, the smaller the squares get in that square. And if they're really dense, a lot of little tiny squares, guess what? Tablets, which is 20% of the mobile market today, tablets cannot scan it because tablets, even the top of the line that I have, Samsung Galaxy Tab, do not have autofocus cameras like phones do. And the way that Walmart is producing their QR code, and it is a QR code, it's not a call to action symbol, 20% of people walking around with tablets can't participate in the program because they can't scan it. However, everyone, 99.99% of the people would be able to type in a URL and still participate. So it'd be like your audience. You say, this group over here, you can listen to my music, but that group, no, 20% of you can't listen to my music. I mean, crazy. Why would you ever do that? Make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, so that's step number 1. Step number 2, the vast majority of people bring them to their website. And as good as yours is, it really is good, you don't want to bring them to mecats.com because that site was designed to be viewed on a PC. You're sitting in front of a screen. Remember, people are walking around with a 4-inch screen. If you bring them to that website, they're going to be gone in under 4 seconds. It's the fact of life today. 80% of the people never sit in front of a computer screen. It's all their smartphone. So you got to keep up with where technology is. I'm not even talking about where it's going to be. I'm talking about where it's been for the last 5 years and so forth. And therefore, people don't want to be sold, which is what most websites do. Let's be honest, right? They want to get a value. They want to know how to get somewhere. How do they get a coupon? How do I figure this out? Let me listen to your music. Let me see your video, right? That's what they want. And if you get them what they want, it's called engagement. You're going to keep them there on that website. So really professional people can take in, I may be wrong about your website. Your developer may have already designed it to be mobile responsive. That is technical term. Okay, so then you're state of the art. But most of my little companies, they don't have the ability and the money to have it be mobile responsive. And what mobile responsive is, it's the same URL. It's just the browser says, are you a phone or are you the PC screen? If you're a screen, I'm going to present this picture. If you're a phone, I'm going to present this picture. So I compliment you, and it doesn't surprise me with your level of professionalism. But that's expensive. And the vast majority of people aren't doing it. So that's one way. It's called mobile responsive, and it's terrific, and it's the same web address. What I do is a totally different technology, and the technical term is mobile optimized. Now, mobile optimized is you'd start with the mecats.com and you keep it the way it is, and then you'd throw out the kitchen sink. And you'd say, I'm not going to use that site. I'm not going to use that content. I'm going to build a message for my audience that's mobile. And I'm going to speak to mobile, 80% of the people today, with their mobile phones. And I'm going to speak to them in the language and in the way they want to be talked to. And that's mobile optimized. And there you build a mobile website from the ground up. It typically has a different URL. It typically houses video because they're not going to read. It typically is not selling much. It's educating. It typically has a one-button press to make a call. Because they're mobile. They want to contact you. How do they want to contact you? They want to call. They don't want to send an email. And then it typically has mapping capability. So if you're a retailer, one button press, Google Maps pops up, the GPS takes you right to their front door. So it's very, very slimmed down functionality, but it is the most important functionality for that audience where they are. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, except for the part about the 80% of people are using their smartphones rather than using a computer. Where did that number come from?
Well, again, I try not to get too technical, and I can lead you to page after page after page and resource after resource after resource of all the heavy-duty documentation. I'd be glad to share that in when you post this up. We'll do it down in the description area so people can follow the links and see the original reports. Forget about this fat guy from Arizona's word, right?
Right.
And one of the best places that I bring people is the International Society for Technology and Education.
Okay.
They do an annual report, so that's one.
Okay, cool.
Google itself, I mean, just Google mobile marketing. It's just page after page after page. I mean, I had 6,500 emails when you and I were talking. So I get a lot of email from people in the mobile marketing arena because just like you, keeping up with music, I keep up with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's huge.
Okay.
Just like video, I forget the number, but video in terms of the amount of bandwidth, I think it's in excess of 70% of all the traffic on the internet. I mean, huge numbers, huge. So this is not new to anybody who's in the marketing arena today.
Okay.
Just like Facebook, I get a lot of my friends who are very professional people. Well, this PR guy I told you in New York that sat down with Brian Monahan, he said, I hate Facebook. I said, well, you may hate Facebook. That's fine. However, your entire audience is on Facebook. Okay, I forgot the statistic. It's something like 60+% of people in a certain age group, before their feet hit the ground, they're checking their Facebook account. Unbelievable. And I can show you video after video or watch my kids and it'll sort of prove that. So mobile marketing, video, Facebook, social media, that's where the world is today. I mean, talk to any yellow page salesman or, God forbid, the guy who sold pagers.
Yeah.
Okay, or fax machines.
So coming back to my question, so since I don't have a phone or anything, but I still want to get more listeners for Mahicats, yes, or I want to direct them to my video, how do I do that without a smartphone?
Again, your audience has it. So what I recommend is, bottom line, the home run is what I call a call to action symbol carrier. And in my last very long email, there were bunches of examples. And basically what it is, it's a 1, 2, 3, go graphic. And it's an educational tool as well as a transportation tool. And it teaches those people who don't have scanning apps how to download for free and get them, and which one, because if you look QR code scanner on iPhone's store or Android's Play Store, you're deluged with hundreds of choices. So I narrow it down to one simple. If it's an iPhone, get QR reader for iPhone. If it's an Android, get QR Droid. End of story. They're free. They're the best there are. I've already done the research. Why waste your time? So get yourself a scanning app. The other thing I teach people is that they need to learn a skill about how to hold the icon and slide it from one screen to the other, because again, I've got everything I do is documented. I've got documentation of hundreds of presentations where people don't know how to do that. And if it's not on your home screen, you're not going to spend more than 3 seconds looking for it. So therefore, if MeCat presents a call to action symbol in a printed magazine and it takes me more than 3 seconds to scan it, I ain't going to do it. So you've just lost your potential audience. But if we train them the right way, they get the app, they download it on the phone, they keep it on their home screen, they use it a couple times, they find the value behind it. And here's a great example. One of my favorite clients was Interstate Batteries. You're probably familiar with them.
Yes.
And the mobile optimized site I built for them used their TV commercial. It was a very, very award-winning, humorous commercial, so people would watch it. And then his deal was if you scanned the symbol, he'd give you 15% off. There's value, right? I mean, if you're buying an RV battery, mine is $140. To get 15% off that just for scanning a symbol, that's a pretty big deal. So this is how my clients develop relationships with their clients. Okay. And I can do that for MeCats and any one of your clients, your podcast audience.
So what do I need to do to get a QR code?
Okay, you need a smartphone to be fully participating. The way Jim Bannon does it with his call to action symbols, you don't need a smartphone. You just need an always on internet connection, right? Either Wi-Fi or cellular, and that's the way it works today. So you could live without a smartphone, just like I did while I was building this business. But again, today your audience is not. I mean, just go sit on a corner and watch. Your audience is on their smartphone all the time. And therefore, you want to talk to them on their smartphone. So if anybody has a smartphone, they need to download the app. That's number one. That's why I teach them with a 1, 2, 3, go, right? 1, download the app. 2, scan the symbol. 3, get the value. It's that simple. And then I would give you free, pro bono, altruistic, no charge. I will give you a call to action symbol for your business that'll bring them wherever you want them, and we'll track the hell out of it. I'll be a little off color. I joke with people, I don't, because of my GE training, Jack Welch taught us, if you can't measure it, don't do it. So that 20-something years of training means that I don't fart in church without measuring audience reaction. So everything I do is measured. And that's the benefit to your audience when they use my call to action symbols. Every time somebody interacts with that code, we're going to know about it. We're going to know it's 2:00 in the afternoon, where they were, what the phone was, how they were holding it. I can't get shoe size yet, but I can get about everything else. So the marketing measurement is just far beyond what anybody could ever dream. So you know that your audience is, 20 to 35 and they're from New Jersey. And if you spent money advertising in New Jersey, you get half the return you get spending in California. I mean, all these kinds of intelligent decisions you can make to get you return on investment for your business, all because of this enabling technology that is light years ahead of running an ad in the Yellow Pages or running a print ad where people can't press the hot link.
Right. Okay.
So the rule of 4, I told you the first one, never, never, never. I think we beat that to death. As a marketer, you're never going to produce a QR code without a URL attached to it. And by the way, I do a URL shortener so that, remember that 20% of audience that Walmart wasn't getting because tablets don't have autofocus cameras. Had they listened to me and used the software that I use, all 100% of people scanning that would be able to scan it. So that's a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Okay, because it has very few dots, because it has very few characters, it's very powerful. And the platform that I use, the number 1 customer is Macy's, number 2 is Kohl's, so it's the real deal. So number 2 is you don't bring them to a regular site. We talked about yours being mobile responsive. We talked about the difference of mobile optimized that is even more powerful. Number 3 is I call it a kiss and a hug. And I gave you the example of Interstate Batteries. They give their customers a value for scanning that code. They give them a kiss and a hug. And Walmart, despite the fact that they're not doing everything correctly, giving me $150 a year, that's a pretty good kiss and a hug. So I'd score them 10 on a 10 scale in the kiss and hug category. All right?
Okay.
If you're a restaurant, and you buy an entree, give the second entree free, or at least give a free dessert. If you're a recording artist, you take your number 1 song, and when they buy it, you give them your newest release free. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you can provide value, and I suggest that you do that. The last thing that your sophisticated audience in the sophisticated millennial mobile market wants is anybody to sell them anything. You know, they want them to receive value, value, value. What's in it for me? Why do I want to do that? What do I get out of this? And that's what you want to make sure is part of every single QR code campaign, call to action symbol campaign. And then number 4, and this is a little prejudice, but I can prove to you that people are not going to read on a 4-inch screen. They're not going to do the pinch and squeeze, you know, the skills that it takes to operate an iPhone or an Android. They're not going to do that. They're going to be gone. They're not going to fill out forms. They're not going to do that. But what they will do is they'll read a graphic. Okay, they'll watch a video. And therefore, number 4, fourth rule of industry best practices, communicate with them in video. And Clara, do you know any video producers?
I know this guy named Jim Bannon from Arizona.
There you go. So that's the only time I make money. You know, I give all this stuff away and I can help clients, and I do many, many, many in my 2 big charities. I'm waiting for an answer right now from Major League Baseball. Now you get the other part of the story. So everything I do is for free, with the exception of producing videos and building mobile optimized websites, which I do very economically. But I am a cancer survivor. And 7 years ago, when I was cured, I got a phone call. And, hey, Jim, how you doing? This is Ed Randall, voice of Major League Baseball here in New York. You know, and I'm going, what? And it's the obnoxious Howard Stern's roommate. And he's the real deal. And he says, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm part of Immerman's Angels. I'm your new mentor angel. And I said, oh, okay. Now I understand. So we became friends. And once a year, he would call me and check up on me. And it was always kind of neat. And this Immerman, here's a commercial. ImmermanAngels.org is a worldwide organization whose mission, charity, 501c3 corporation, whose mission is any type of cancer anywhere in the world. They match a cancer fighter with a cancer survivor of the exact same profile within 24 hours. So recently, my 36-year-old daughter, she's got an angel. She's in Denver. We were out there for 4 months. That's how you and I were talking, because I was supporting her double mastectomy and chemotherapy. And she has an Immerman angel. Ed is my Immerman angel. So anyway, he's a great guy. And he runs a charity called, just for prostate cancer, called fansforthecure.org. And on Father's Day, he puts on 167 events across minor league stadiums across the country. And they provide a free public service announcement, which is him, of course. The team signs a baby blue bat, and we raffle it off. The team wears these blue armbands, even the umpires, and it's all for prostate cancer awareness, because we believe that no man should die from stubbornness, right? Get a simple blood test. It'll save your life. It saved Ed's. It saved mine. Yet prostate cancer is the number 2 cancer killer of men in America. So that's my passion. And I want him to use call to action symbols in his charity across America. And right now, their board of directors is considering that.
Well, that's great, Jim.
So that's where I get some money. I mean, Major League Baseball, they got this little companies called NBC and CBS and CNN. So they don't need Jim to do videos. But you know what? They do need my movies, my mobile optimized video site, and more importantly, they need my education, which is pro bono. So that's my passion. That's why I do this. That's why I take rejection from a professional like you saying, you know, Jim, your topic's not really relative to my audience. And that's why I hope at the end of this, your audience is saying, wow, the time I invested listening to this podcast is going to have some positive impact on my business. And the ROI, the return on investment, is huge, because I didn't have to pay thousands of dollars. I had to invest my professional time, and mine is $66 an hour, by the way. So I don't know what you value your time at. And then if I can give them a return of 4 or 10 or 100 times return on investment, then I'll go to the other side of the green grass saying, Jim, you made a difference in this world.
So what's the next action, Jim? What's the next action for one of my listeners who wants to take part in the call to action symbols and get started with getting some people to their website to watch their videos or to hire them?
Excellent question. First of all, to establish credibility, maybe I'm smoking something, right? Maybe every word come out of my mouth wasn't true. Like you questioned some of the statistics, and I might not be right on, but I'm close. So to prove this, just tell your audience, go to any web browser in the world, be it Safari on a Mac or Chrome or whatever, and type in hashtag, the word call, the number 2, the word action, the word symbols. So hashtag call to action symbols, and bingo, page after page after page is me and the resources, and it's all free promoting that concept. The other thing is that one of the infographics I publish is really the value that I provide and what your audience needs, and that is they need to engage their audience first. Then they need to direct them to a specific electronic site, not their homepage usually. And then they need to measure everything that they do. And the things that are working, they want to do more of. The things that aren't working, guess what? They want to stop doing. So that's EDM, engage, direct, and measure. And all they got to do is put a hashtag with those 3 words. Hashtag, engage, direct, measure. And bingo, there's my credibility. Now, how do you get to me specifically? Where's the meat? I closed all of my websites, my social presences everywhere, but my websites are closed. And I just use Google's blog. So it's my old company name, which is Budget Video, the numeral 4, Biz. So it used to be budgetvideo4.biz. That website's gone. I own it, but the website's down. So the new place to go is budgetvideo4, don't put in a dot, budgetvideo4biz.blogspot.com. So it's Google's blogging platform. And that'll take you to the initial story about Walmart and the $68 and the cashier that taught me about this program, blah, blah, blah. And it's a simple, easy to get your arms around article. But scroll down to the very bottom, and the bottom link says, learn more about call to action symbols. And when you click that, it's going to take you to a very in-depth training session. So that's the payoff. It's so long that I even had to do an audio track to keep people's attention. But, the old Clara movie for, I think it was Wendy's, where's the beef? Where's the beef? That's where the beef is. That's where the value is. So I will take somebody who doesn't know anything about call to action symbols. If they just read that article and watch the video and listen to the audio, they will be educated, and that's my free gift. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So that's the education piece of it. So where do I go to actually get some symbols? Like, say I did have a smartphone and I wanted to get some symbols into a magazine, and they agreed. And say I have an ad in a magazine, they agreed to put the ad in there with the call to action symbol. Where do I get that symbol?
Well, your audience only has to mention your name, and they get it for free. Pro bono, free, because they're Lady Audio's audience. That's my offer to your group. And how do they get that? They send me an email. And I am Jim Bannon, Bannon 306 @gmail.com. Or on Skype, it is Jim Bannon 306. Okay, so any way they contact me and they say, Lady Audio Podcast, I want this, free. We'll do it.
Okay. That's a great offer, Jim.
Hopefully they'll find value. And all I ask is they spread it and they do it the right way, not the wrong way. And then, then when I can say to Major League Baseball, I got this educated audience out there now. I spent years teaching them how to speak, quote, French, right? Sort of like my teaching the Mormon Tabernacle Choir how to sing. That's my analogy. I'm teaching your audience a new language. We'll call it French. And the reason I spend so much time giving it away and teaching them is the next time, once they learn French, I only have to teach them once in a lifetime, right?
Right.
And once they learn that, anytime I put a French word in front of them, they'll know how to read it. Bingo. Anytime I put a call to action symbol in front of them, they'll know how to use it. And now Major League Baseball can really be productive in their communications because their audience has made their print media interactive. And I have fulfilled my mission in closing. My mission is to bring the offline world, usually printed material, but social media as well, to bring the offline world to your online presence, whether it's Facebook or your website or something I do special, using call to action symbols as the entrance ramp to the information highway. That's my mission in life.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate that. And thank you for answering all of my questions. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today and to, tell me about what all this stuff means. Because like I said, I'm not a smartphone user, and I probably won't be for many, many years until they stop making desktop computers. But until that day, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the show and describing all of these things to me, what call to action symbols mean, what QR codes mean, how to get one, and all that kind of stuff. Thank you.
Well, again, I compliment you for your open-mindedness, because you turned from, Jim, you're not right for my audience, to me being here. Just like people who say, oh, QR codes, they're dead. Maybe we've got some that'll be open-minded. And then finally, when I solicit people in business, I usually say, I respect your professional time and the value of it. So if you're going to grant it to me, I'm going to ask you one question at the end. Would you allow me to ask that one question?
Okay. I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to trust Jim.
Thank you. I don't know what your professional rate is for discussion purposes. I said mine's 66 an hour. Let's say you're 200 an hour. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. So you've invested 45 minutes with me. Let's call it an hour. So you invested $200 with this fat guy from Arizona, Jim Bannon, Budget Video for Biz. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think your return on investment is going to be?
I have no idea. No idea.
Okay, well, if I produce $1,000 worth of new business with your newfound education, that's a 5 to 1 ROI, right?
I guess so, yeah.
That's my challenge. I'll do whatever it takes to give you a 5 to 1 ROI.
Okay. That's a deal.
And do you say that's a wrap, or do I say that's a wrap?
I would just say thank you for being on the show one more time. I'll just say thank you.
God bless you, and thank you.